It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
My guest today is from Cycle, Alaska, the bike shop up in Juneau. His name is John McConnochie. He's from New Zealand. Thanks for being on here, John.
You're welcome.
So I'm sure the question that you always get is, how does one go from New Zealand to starting a bike shop in Juneau?
That's a rather circuitous route. I came over here in the 70s under a sports scholarship and swam at the University of Oregon and Central Washington, or Washington State University, I should say. So that's what initially brought me to the States. And then from there, after graduating, I met this beautiful blonde from Spokane, Washington, and we moved down to the June Springfield area for a couple of years and worked down there. And then a job offer came up in Juneau, Alaska, working at the Juneau Racket Club. I've been working at clubs down in Oregon, and it seemed like a natural transition. And like a lot of people coming to Alaska, and we gave ourselves 2 years, and if we can handle that, maybe we stay, maybe we won't. But like a lot of others, there was no sort of 2-year anniversary. We just decided we loved it here. And 41 years later, still very much in love with Juneau and Alaska.
Excellent. So when did you start the shop?
We started the retail side of the business in 2010. The tour side had been operating since 1996, and we bought the company in 2005. So we operated strictly as a tour rental company for about 6 years, and then transitioned, which had already been in our plans, to have a retail aspect to it also, Jeff.
Mm-hmm. What have you seen as far as change, as far as maybe like the biking culture in the time that you've been owning the shop?
Well, two of the major changes are more commuters, more people riding to work for different reasons. And the other thing is a growth in the mountain biking, flow track, pump track sort of culture and opportunities. And those two pieces, and I think coming a close third might be people using the bike as a form of fitness, as a low impact way to get some aerobic points by cycling.
Mm-hmm. As far as trails go, it looks like I live down in Ketchikan, and it looks like there's just an extensive amount of trails, I guess, comparatively. Have you seen the trail program? Are they increasing? Are they building more trails? Like how is that?
They are, and then upgrading existing trails. There's been a great deal of work done on numerous trails around Juneau, and a lot of different bodies have been involved with that, from trail mix, through the Forest Service, City Borough of Juneau, Juneau Mountain Bike Alliance, and then also the state parks have also been very involved. So it's been a combined effort, and as a result, a lot of trails have been upgraded. Some new trails have been added, and then on some different trails, there's been some single track downhill trails that have sort of come available. Not very long as far as length of the trail, but some opportunities for people.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the, like, your favorite trails? I think we'll kind of go in 2 parts here. We'll talk about the mountain bike, the trail stuff, and then we'll get to some of the commuter stuff. But what are some of the trails that you like the most?
Well, they won't be any surprise to anybody living in Juneau, but I really enjoy Perseverance and then Treadwell Ditch. They've done a lot of work on that trail, upgrading that trail over the years. And at some point here, that trail, you'll be able to traverse it all the way from Cropley Lake at Eagle Crest all the way down to Douglas. And that's about 16 miles of trail following the old Treadwell Ditch, which was a ditch built to collect water and then take it down to the Treadwell mines to be used in the mines. So it's once that's complete, that'll be a world-class trail opportunity for people. And lately too, I've been riding the trails on a gravel bike, which has been a lot of fun. I'm average mountain biker. So I do okay. There's certain points I step off the bike and walk through things I just know I'm not going to enjoy too much if I fall off. But having a lot of fun on gravel bikes, which is basically a road bike, but with larger tires, about 2 to 3 times the size of a typical, drop handlebar racing bike type tire. And they are pretty compliant to the surface you're on. You rattle your teeth a little bit on the downhills, but I don't fly downhill anyway.
Yeah. I used to ride, when I lived in California, I would ride my bike to work in the morning at school, and it was just really nice. But when I got out in the country where I lived, there wasn't much of a shoulder. And so I got that gravel tire there just so it was a little bit, it was more efficient on the roads than a more aggressive tire. But then if, a car was coming and I felt I wanted to get off the road a little bit, I could do that safely.
Yeah, and it's a growing, we're selling more and more. Actually, we sell 3 or 4 times more gravel bikes than we do just the traditional drop handlebar, skinny tire road bike. It is that's one of the changes that we're seeing. And it's such a versatile bike. You can commute on it, you can do trails on it, you can do roads obviously on it, or you can put racks on it, panniers, and use it as a touring bike. So it's kind of a Swiss Army knife in a way of bikes.
What's your most preferred, like for your own individual use?
As far as bikes are concerned,
Yeah.
or
maybe style of bike.
It varies. If it depends on what I'm training for or what's sort of taken my interest. That at certain times it's mountain biking because I just really enjoy being off the road and in the forest, and it's and if it's a really wet, rainy day, and it's nothing worse than being on a road bike and cars going by, you're kicking up grime and getting wet and cold, and much prefer to be in a trail in the woods. Of course, you're still going to get wet, but it's just a lot more enjoyable than being on a road. So it varies just depending on what I'm training for and just what sort of catches my interest that day.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually currently down in Laramie, Wyoming, and we were out in the prairie doing a supposed to be about a 12-mile out and back, and we got caught in a bit of a thunderstorm. So we turned around and we're coming back, and it was kind of fun because it was downhill and it's warm, and so that rain, turns the prairie into mud, and it was kind of fun. That the inner kid in me was really excited about that, just kind of getting muddy, but it was warm. And biking up in Ketchikan, man, it's just that cold, and it's like you said, it's pretty miserable, not very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of you said your commuter bikes are is kind of a growing trend in Juneau. Is that a year-round thing, or is it just kind of when the weather's good?
It is year round for some. They put studded tires on, and then maybe they've got more tend towards more of a fat tire or a plus size tire. 2.8 inch to 4, some 5 on some fat tire bikes. So that you're changing some of your equipment out, or just a larger tire that can handle a little bit of snow, and so obviously not as many in the winter as there are in the summertime. But that is growing also. People are doing it year round and enjoying it. And just they're dressing for it also. As my dad said, there's no bad weather, there's just bad gear. So just getting the right gear and just understanding that it may not be the perfect day, but at least every time I get on a bike, I got a smile on my face. So I think even in the depths of winter when people are riding, they've got a smile on their face, and then being lit up too. Obviously, you need to make certain that you can be seen. In fact, during the day, if I'm even riding my mountain bike, if I'm riding a little bit of a distance to a trail, I throw lights on just when I'm on the road. It's just makes good sense to do that so people can see you and be aware that you're another piece of equipment on the road that they need to be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Are cars pretty cognizant and pretty alert when it comes to cyclists?
I think they have become more so, and all the studies show that the more cyclists that are on the road, as a ratio, there's less accidents because motorists are more aware that is going to be something that's going to be on the road, albeit on the shoulder for the most part, on the other side of the fog line, but that it lessens the opportunity for accidents. And And as a result, seeing more and more people on the road here, I think drivers are becoming more and more aware. And for the most part, if I'm out the road, like down at Thane or North Douglas or out the road, most drivers will take the other lane when they pass you if they have that opportunity. Obviously, cars coming, they won't do that, but it's really nice. And every time somebody does that, I put my hand up just to wave and say thank you. That was nice of you. And I think the most courteous drivers that I have seen, not only here in Alaska, but down the lower 48 when I've been riding down there, are the commercial drivers. They seem to be just a little bit more tuned to that sort of thing, and maybe they're on the road more often than most. So that's always heartening to see that, because you got a big semi flying by you with a trailer on the back, and you're on the side of a freeway. And often you don't have to be there, but sometimes when you're transiting from one area to the other, you have to be.
Right.
And seeing them pull over and just it's really nice to see that, rather than be buffeted by their slipstream.
Yeah, for sure. So if someone was going to buy a road bike, can you give them, because I know that you have a shop online feature on your website, and you can ship bikes. So what would be kind of what are you looking for in a bike? If someone says, hey, I'm thinking about a road bike so I can go to work in, what are some things that he or she should be looking for in a quality road bike, and then what do you offer?
Well, I think one of the things we ask a lot of questions to start with, because we really want to find out exactly how long they're going to be on the bike, what distance are they traveling, what are they going to be using the bike for, so that we can make certain we get them on the right type of bike. And then also sizing is critical, that you get the right size bike for somebody, because it's the wrong size and they start to hurt every time they ride for one reason or another. That each time they go to the garage and look at that bike, they go, I don't want to do this. So that's critical. But when somebody is riding the roads, and let's say that there's different elements. If they're training for a triathlon or a bike ride, a riding race, then obviously we would start to talk to them about a drop handlebar road bike. If they're commuting, just the gravel bike I mentioned earlier, or even just a straight bar handlebar bike that has a frame like a road bike, but the handlebar is straight and has the same shifting like a mountain bike. There's a good number of those styles of bike that would be more than adequate for somebody that maybe is commuting 5 to 10 miles one way a day, and 10 to 20 miles a day. If they're going longer, we might suggest more towards the gravel bike, because you can change your hands on the handlebars a little more, give you a little more opportunity to move around a little bit as you're riding. And then also the tire too. If you're commuting a long way, you don't want to be carrying a heavy, highly profiled sort of tire like a mountain bike tire. A slick tire with a little bit of profile on the sides would be perfect.
Okay. So if you want to do like a race, my brother was really into the racing stuff, and he wasn't super fast, but he did a couple centuries down in California. And I could just, he would come to every stop light and he would have to click his shoe out. People who are nervous about clicking in and out, if they're trying to go like triathlon or trying to go long distances with that, is that an added cost? Do you have to get the click-in shoes? Have they changed the technology? Is that something to be afraid of? Do you have shoes that click into the pedals?
When I'm on my road bike, yes, I clip in, and on my gravel bike too. But if I'm starting to get onto trails or I'm going to go to a trail where it's a little more technical, and I'll put flats on, so I'm not clipping in, because I just want to put that foot down quickly. As I mentioned earlier, I'm okay on trails, but I'm not great, so I like that opportunity to do that. But if somebody is going to start to race triathlons and so forth, clipping in allows you to transfer the power more efficiently from your pedal stroke to the pedal and the crank arm, and moving the bike. Flats with just standard shoes on, you lose a lot of the power. Not a lot, but you lose enough. And the technology has changed somewhat on clip-in. It's nice now. Some have a little bit of float, meaning you've got like 4 to 5 degrees on either side to float the foot a little bit, so you're not completely locked in, and that's nice to have. It is interesting. The first time I clipped in, I was going out with 2 other friends, and they said, John, you just got to remember when you come to the stop sign, you need to click your heel out and clip out. And we practiced a couple of times, but sure enough, when I got to the bottom of the hill, got to do it, and we just crashed. And they said, okay, everybody has to learn that. So when I talk to people now, and they're going out for the first time with their shoes and the cleats and going to clip in, I tell them, look, go to a field somewhere at one of the schools and just practice. So if you do fall, you're falling on soft ground, not on asphalt or something like that, or concrete. So just go out, practice, and it just takes a couple of times, and then you figure it out.
Yeah, that was I was pretty intimidated by it, but really it's not that much. You don't have to torque your whole hip or knee or anything like that. It's a pretty simple movement, so it's not something that people should really be afraid of. But it was an interesting thing to get used to. I see that you have 3 bikes on your website that are road bikes. Obviously, components are the main difference when it comes to price. So what would a top end road bike have that I don't want to say lesser, but a more affordable price point bike have?
Well, part of it could be the frame itself. Carbon fiber is becoming more and more popular, or even titanium. So that can start to increase the price, even if the frame itself, for the most part, is aluminium, but the front fork, which the front wheel clips into, that could be carbon fiber. So that can start to make a difference in the pricing. And then component groups, each company, whether it be SRAM, Shimano, whomever, have different grades of component groups. And for the most part, they're all they're great. They work well. And we see enough bikes with different component parts from Trek and Kona, who are the 2 brands we carry most. Even their entry-level bikes really work well. And then the further up you go, the components typically get a little bit lighter. They're a little bit more efficient in shifting. They just have a little bit more reliability. And sometimes there will be gearing changes, like you might go from 7 speeds to 10 speeds, and sometimes nowadays too, just going what's called a one by, where you just have one chainring up front with your crank arms and pedals, and you might have 11 and sometimes now 12 speeds in the back. And that's nice to have, because now you're doing away with one of the derailleurs, the front derailleur, and so it's one less thing to worry about as far as a component or something breaking down.
Yeah, I hadn't bought a bike in probably, 15 years or so. And so when I got a new Giant recently, and it's just so amazing how efficient the change is in gears. My old Trek when I was in high school, you'd click it and then you'd hear the chain rattle, rattle, rattle. Then, a couple of cranks, then it would finally get there. But it's an immediate change, which is so nice when you got to change speed, or you were going downhill, now uphill. That was something that I noticed that would be it's so great to have that.
Yeah, and they're even now taking it to electronic shifting, where you don't even have the cables for the shifter. It's just electronically. You can just press a button, whether it be the front or the rear chain rings, and make your changes that way. So and then disc brakes is just becoming more and more common. I suspect within the next 5 years, almost all bikes, no matter mountain bike, road, touring, whatever, will have disc brakes. I think that's one of the big changes that we've seen too on bikes.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
So transitioning now to like your commuter or urban type bike, just kind of going to work, bombing around town a little bit there. What are some things you're looking for there? Obviously, it's not as specialized, and so you're probably not going to be spending what you would for a really good mountain bike or a really efficient light road bike. So what are some things that people might look for in your commuter or urban bike?
One of the most important things is going to be comfort. A lot of those bikes have a little bit more of an upright posture, which I think for most people is, of course, more comfortable. The other thing too, I'd be looking for, are you going to be carrying bags on the bike? Can the bike have the ability to have a rack on it? Can the bike have the ability to have fenders on it? That's, if you're a commuter or a rider that's going to the grocery store or even a fitness rider, it's nice to have those fenders. And again, if you need to carry things, is your bike equipped to carry or have a rack attached to it so you can put bags, panniers, or even just the old milk crate on top of the rack and just bungee cord it down so you can carry things. So that works too.
Mm-hmm. You said that's your biggest growth you've seen has been in the kind of commuter urban bike?
That and mountain biking. Those two we've seen, and it's been really interesting. Like, we just had a gentleman here, actually. He rented a bike from us, and he, at the start of the COVID period, he said, okay, I have to lose some weight. And over the past year and 4 months, so 16 months, he's lost 140 pounds.
Oh, wow.
Over that period. And he said strictly cycling. And when he was here, he rented from us 3 days, different styles of bikes to do different things. And we're seeing more and more people seeing cycling as a low impact, fun way to exercise and be out of doors and enjoy fresh air. And now with e-bikes becoming far more prevalent than previously, it's adding another dimension for people. They can go out further, they can stay out a little bit longer. Often they will go out more often on an e-bike than on a standard bike. So that's really helped. And for some people, in fact, the first e-bike we sold was to a gentleman who had MS. And he was an avid cyclist and rode into work almost every day from Valley to downtown. So it's about 11 miles commute one way. And he just could not handle that any longer. But with an e-bike and the assist, we just sell the e-assist, which is pedal assist. There's no throttle on the bike. He didn't do it every day, but he was up to about 3 days a week, and just said, it's just giving me another lease on life that I thought I may have lost. And so it's a lot of different people getting an e-bike for a lot of different reasons.
That's great. Before we get to the e-bikes, I want to hit on the mountain bike. What are you looking for there, especially when it comes to if you want a full suspension versus a hardtail? What would be the difference? What would be the applications? When would you want to get the full suspension versus not?
Well, the full suspension, if you're doing some really serious single track downhill or even just very technical trail riding, the full suspension as an element that no other bike can, although some of the hardtail bikes nowadays are the geometry and the tires and the suspension up front, they'll never equal a full suspension, but they're doing some pretty amazing things with some of those bikes. So it's more for the, somebody is doing a flow track, single track downhill, like I was mentioning, or some really technical riding, whether it be downhill, uphill, or whatever. Then the full suspension really can make a lot of difference. And then the hardtail, a lot of parents want to go riding with their children, and they just want to be on a because the kids want a mountain bike, and so the parents want to get a mountain bike. There's no need for a full suspension at that point, just the added weights, and just the added cost of full suspension. So a hardtail is great there. If somebody is just doing hard packed trails, maybe a little bit of technical stuff here and there for a short bit on the trail, a hardtail mountain bike does very, very well in those circumstances, particularly now with the larger sort of plus tires that I mentioned earlier, where just not your standard 1.95 to 2.1, but you can get a 2.8 on there and take your pressure down, or even go tubeless, and the bikes become very compliant to the surfaces you're on.
The tubeless thing was kind of new to me. So what's the deal with the tubeless, and how does that work, and why would it be better than the old traditional tubes?
Well, it's interesting. It's following the auto industry. Many, many years ago, you had an inner tube and then the tire, but I don't know how long it's been now, but that's sort of gone away completely. So most tires on vehicles, or all tires on vehicles nowadays, are tubeless. And so cycling went to the same thing. One of the reasons, particularly for mountain bikers, is flats. Getting pinch flats and things like that. With tubeless, that's not going to happen, just for the very reason that it's tubeless. And also, you have in the tire itself, if you do hit a tack, or something punctures the tire, the tire is filled with a gel that will, as soon as air hits that, it will seal that part of the tire, so that you can keep riding. You don't have to worry about stopping and dismounting and replacing an inner tube or something like that. So there's a lot of advantages that way too. And it's just a little bit lighter too, without having the tire in there, or the inner tube in there.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned the fat tires, and fat tires with studs are the two separate things there. Do you see most of those with like mountain bikes or commuter bikes, or kind of the winter biking? What do you got on that?
Well, the fat tires with studs, the true fat tire, you're up at 4 inches, up to 5 inches with studs. They are sort of the snow, sands, and around here in Juneau, and I'm certain in Ketchikan, a lot of our trails can be rocky and rooty. And those big tires just roll over things. I liken it to the ski industry when they went to the fat skis, and how that sort of an equalizer in a lot of ways for skiing, or made it easier for people to handle certain situations in skiing. And same with the fat tire bike. It's a little more forgiving in certain circumstances when you're on the trail. Like I said, particularly a rocky, rooty trail, or pure parts of the trail that are like that. And I have a friend that takes his dogs out of the Minhole Lake, and he has a fat tire bike. In fact, it was one of the first ones purchased in Juneau. And he also has studs on that, and then on his shoes he has yak tracks. So when he stops and puts his feet down on the ice, obviously the bike is secure, but his feet don't slip from underneath him too. So that's a popular aspect to it. So a fat tire bike in Juneau, a lot of people will just use them year round. Now, I don't know if you want to commute 20 miles on a fat tire bike, but they do a lot of things equally well. And then, of course, in the winter on the snow, they do very well too. Mm-hmm. And then, I was just mentioning, a lot of plus size tires now that bikes are coming with, that just again make them a little more compliant with the surfaces they're on, particularly if you're doing some more aggressive technical work.
Mm-hmm. And so now to the e-bikes. You talked about pedal assist earlier, and you also have e-bikes with the throttle. Well, that's models that are available out there. So what have you seen as far as like a good e-bike? Either way, like what are you looking for or why would you want an e-bike?
The e-bikes that we carry are just strictly the pedal assist, so they only engage the motor when you pedal. And that we don't carry the throttle bikes. With those, if you're over 20 miles an hour, then you have to register the bike as a vehicle. But with the pedal assist, like as I mentioned earlier, sometimes people physically are struggling cycling or cycling for a period of time. So this extends that opportunity. For other people, if the spouse is quicker on a pedal bike than their partner, we have a couple of people where one person rides the pedal bike and the other rides the assist, and they can go out riding together. Although typically the assist rider is going to be at the top of the hill quicker than the pedal bike, so there's, there's that aspect to it. And then the other piece too is that as people age, they just would perhaps like some more assist when they're riding, and they still really enjoy riding, but they would prefer to have that pedal assist. And there's different, like the bikes we have typically have 4 speeds. You can start at ego, eco, and then go all the way up to turbo at the top. But there's a lot of opportunities there also for people with the e-bikes, in that they can do some things perhaps that they weren't comfortable doing before, such as going for a little bit longer ride, a little more hillier ride. And I've followed some of the studies that have come out, getting some fairly good longitudinal studies now, that an average rider on a pedal bike and an average rider on an e-bike are going to exert about the same amount of energy when they're riding. And the reason for that is the e-bike riders typically stay out a little bit longer, go a little bit further, and ride a little bit more often than just somebody on a pedal bike. So yes, are they out there longer on their bike? They are, but they are getting about the same amount. It's not cheating, but they're getting about the same amount of physical exertion as they would somebody who's on a standard pedal bike in normal circumstances. Now, if you're training for the Ironman or a Century Ride or something like that, you might be a little bit different. But for normal commuter, around the block, going to the grocery store type of riders, it's just been really interesting to follow that.
Yeah. Well, there's really not many trails on Prince of Wales or in the Ketchikan area, so I think one of the things that I like to do is just go on the logging roads, but those can get a little bit boring, so it would be kind of nice to be able to get way further. So I think doing that pedal assist, I'd probably go definitely a further distance, just because it's a logging road. You don't have that same sort of looking for the texture in it, and it's not technical, it's just road. And so I think speeding through some of that monotony would be kind of nice.
Well, the other aspect too for an e-bike are those who are on a flow track somewhere, and they're or a single track, and we have one close to our house, and I see them go by all the time. So when you finish the ride and you're at the bottom of the trail, rather than having to just manually pedal all the way back up to the top and go down again, you just put it into the e-assist mode, and you're back up the top fairly quickly, and so you can actually put in more runs than if somebody's skinning up the mountain to come down on skis, or they're taking the lift to go up and come down on their skis. So a lot of people are actually enjoy it for that reason.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds good. What about other buying considerations? You talked about the types a little bit, talked about usage. Is there any other things that people might consider if they're in the market for buying a bike?
Sizing is critical. Do a little bit of research beforehand, and there's a lot of opportunities there, just knowing your height, your inseam, and making certain you know what size bike, and going to an independent bike dealer and talking to them and letting them know what kind of riding you want to do, and have them size you on the bikes. And if some bike geometries are just a little bit different than others, and so it's always nice to make certain that the bike that you are going to buy is the one that fits you. That's critical. And then obviously things, safety-wise, helmets. We mentioned lights earlier, just daytime lights on my road bikes. All my road bikes have daytime lights on them that are on when I'm riding. And if you're in Southeast Alaska, I would definitely think about fenders, getting fenders on your bike. It makes it just a little pleasant, saves your clothes a little bit more, and actually saves the drivetrain just a little bit more also.
What about maintenance? I think that's a huge thing too. Like, you're getting a lot of, especially up there, you got like glacial silt, and there's a lot of opportunity for very fine particles to get into these things. So as far as maintenance components, is it rinse after each one? Do you want to be spraying but not pressure washing? Soap, no soap? What's the basic maintenance after a ride?
Well, for me, there's just a hose at the side of the house, and I don't turn it on full bore. and I stay away from where the seat goes into the frame or where the handlebar is attached to the stem and down to the fork. Stay away from those sort of points, but mainly focusing on the drivetrain and the disc brakes, getting those cleaned off nicely. And ideally, one of the best things you can do, if you can keep your bike in a heated, dry area like your garage or some other spot in the house, that can make a huge difference as far as your bike, the longevity of it. And then just, I do not put any lube on my chain until I can see just a little bit of rust forming, or I just go out the door and I can feel it creaking a little bit. And then I just put a small amount of lube on. Actually, I wipe that off, run the chain through a rag a couple of times, rotations through, just to get that excess off. Because any lube is going to attract glacial silt, other grime that's on the road. And the other thing is, if you're actively riding, go into your local bike shop and talk to them and have them measure your chain. If you're an active commuter, gosh, every 3 months or so, go and have them measure your chain, because the chain actually does stretch, and as it does stretch, it'll start to wear down the teeth on your chain ring and your cassette in the rear. And I've learned this lesson a couple of times. You let that happen over time, then you're looking at a whole new drivetrain chain drivetrain up front as far as the chain rings there, and the cassette on the back, the gears in the back, and that can get expensive as opposed to just changing a chain.
Mm-hmm. Do you have, like in your maintenance thing, do you like walk through, if someone's going to buy a bike from you, do you walk through the maintenance that they should do? Is there like a video or something like that, or are you available to people if they buy a bike to help them kind of through that? If they did, I think a couple of my friends ordered some bikes from you guys. Like, could they call you and get some insight, or FaceTime you about some maintenance?
I don't know if we do a good as job as we should on that, to be quite honest with you, Jeff. There's some basic things we talk to people when they buy the bike about the bike, but we should perhaps do a better job on the cleaning, lubrication, and measuring the length of the chain and so forth. If we have active commuters who come in and have the bike, we measure it right away anyway, and so we can just let them know, okay, look, you've got about another month or so here, but we'll need to change this chain pretty quickly. So
yeah.
When we see things come in, we let people know.
And you do have rentals too. Do I see that right? Are you like concerned with how hard people are on your bikes? It's kind of the old rental car thing where people are really tough on rental cars because it's not their own. Do you see that people are pretty gentle with your bikes, or they ride them hard, or you figure it's a rental, that's what it's for? How do you feel about the rental?
They do get a little banged up at times. Our mechanics, typically we go through the bikes, not every time they come back. Obviously, if somebody makes a comment about something, so it's just not shifting quite right on this gear or that gear, we get into right away. But they're looking at the bikes pretty regularly, and cosmetically they will get dinged up over time, but mechanically, they're in great shape. We take pride in making certain the bikes run as they should. But one of the things we have to be careful too is when people are transporting our bikes somewhere, that we make sure that the manner in which they're transporting them, if they're in the back of a pickup truck or something like that, that they're protected and none of the derailleurs are not going to get bent out of shape, or spokes getting bent, things like that. So that's a critical piece for us. But for the most part, people are pretty good, and a lot of our bikes have kickstands, so that's nice. So they don't have to lie them on the ground or put them up against a tree or something like that. So that's very helpful.
That's great. Well, do you have anything else to add, or to pitch the store? You can tell people where to find you and all that stuff.
Yep. No, we're here in Juneau. We're the Bright Red Building on the corner of 8th and Egan, and I'm actually 2 blocks from the whale statue. So I've got a great variety of bikes. I'm getting more and more in stock. We're being fortunate that we've been able to keep a pretty good stock of bikes in a time where bikes are hard to find.
Yeah.
So don't feel bashful. Just come on by. And then everything's online too. It's cycleak.com. We ship bikes throughout the state. So we've seen a lot of bikes throughout Southeast, even Furthest one so far is being to, it's either between Kodiak or Bethel. I can't remember.
Oh, wow. Excellent.
So,
Very good. And did you have social media?
yes. Yep. Facebook. We're on Twitter also.
Okay. And then are there events that that go on up there?
We do. We do a number of different events. We help sponsor a number of events also. Right now, we're running what we call our Cycle Alaska PE program, where kids can do a certain number of minutes per week. It's an 8-week program, and each week we have small gifts for them. They come in, put their name up, put a sticker beside their name that they completed that week, got all their minutes in, and then at the end of the 8-week period, those who've completed all 8 weeks are eligible for a drawing for a kids mountain bike. So that program right now, I think we've got about 110 kids enrolled in that program. So that's a fun program that we provide. And then through the winter, we do our bike adventure series, where Juneauites who have taken a tour through the southern states, or gone over and done a tour on the Danube in Europe, or done something in Asia, going through Vietnam and so on, just give a 1-hour presentation, and then they take questions after that, and those have been very, very popular. We didn't have them last year for obvious reasons, but we're going to be starting those back up this winter.
That's awesome.
Oh, there's a bunch of other things that we do locally here too. We had a bike. We didn't do a bike to work day this year. We did a community bike ride, so just anybody get out and ride their bikes, and we had paired up with another store in the valley, and people get a button that they bike that day, and then we had some more small drawings, just getting people out on bikes.
That's awesome. Well, great. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk to me, and appreciate what you're doing, local business and helping people out.
Well, that's important. We feel strongly a lot of things we do. Community's been good to us, that we believe strongly in paying our civic rent and giving back. And we do some donation programs throughout the community too. So that's we like doing that also. Awesome.
Great. Well, thanks again, John. Take care, and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thanks, Jeff, and you also.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.